Hello, my name is Anko Möllers and I work at the Joint Secretariat of the Interreg Northwest Europe program. Today in this video, I will give you an overview of what we are financing in terms of projects under the topic of blue energy, and also explain why we are financing this. You will see a number of pictures and a video to illustrate our projects a bit better, and I hope it will be helpful for you to learn what we as Northwest Europe are financing. So why are we investing in this topic of blue energy, and why is it an important topic for us? For this, I want to show you a map of our area so you can see better where we are located. First, look at the territory of our current program, which you can see on this slide. We cover the North Sea, we cover the Atlantic Ocean, we cover the Channel. So with this, we have many coastal areas involved in our territory. And many of these coastal areas are also rural ones, such in Scotland and Ireland, but even in Brittany, as in France. But all these coastal regions, as you know, have the huge potential to generate renewable energy from the sea. So blue energy from tidal, from waves, and from offshore wind. And what marks these coastal areas in Northwest Europe, and you might know this if you've already been in these regions before, there is a lot of wind. So this wind, of course, creates a rough environment in the sea. So you have very high waves and lots of wind. And in some areas, you also have very strong tidal streams, such in the north of Scotland, but also in France or the Netherlands. And also in this area, we have a lot of testing sites for marine or blue energy available. So there's infrastructure available that helps SMEs or technology developers to really test their devices in the sea. And so with this natural environment we are having in Northwest Europe, the coastal areas and the wind, but also with this infrastructure available, there is a huge potential to exploit blue energy in our area. In addition, also as it happens, Northwest Europe has a big priority on renewable energy at the moment. So in the current program, the increase of renewable energies is a big priority, and it will also remain a big priority in the future program that will be launched very soon, the program from 21 to 27. And with this in mind, blue energy is a very important topic for our area. Hence, we are financing all these projects on blue energy. But what exactly are we financing? We are currently financing 6 projects. 6 projects might seem very little, but if you look at this very closely, you see financially speaking, it's quite a lot, because we as a program are financing 40 million euros of ERDF in these 6 projects. Their total budget sums up to 75 million euros. That is because we are financing only 60% usually. And if you want to put this a bit more in perspective, if you compare this to our program budget, which is more than 370 million euros, you will see that we finance about 10% of our program budget in projects of blue energy. So it is quite an important share and a very important topic for our program. Out of these projects, of these 6 projects, they all have, of course, a different focus. But out of these projects, I would say that 2 of them are focusing more on technology development as such. So one is looking at deploying a device for offshore floating offshore wind. And the second one is looking how to generate green hydrogen from tidal energy. The other 4 projects that receive money from us are looking into business support for blue energy. So they are cooperating with SMEs in the sectors to make it possible for these SMEs to test their technologies and devices in the sea under real sea conditions. Some of the projects are looking more on developing more the business plan, giving some coaching and training and advice on how to advance the technology further to SMEs. And others are really making it possible for these SMEs to test it in the water, to get the metal wet, as they say it. So really have the technologies in the water under real sea conditions. I will show you some examples of these devices that have been tested and have been made possible through our projects that we finance. And I want to really highlight 2 projects for now, which are the 4C project that has closed, that was running for 3.5–4 years and supported 30 SMEs. And the Ocean Demo project, which is a follow-up project of this 4C project, that again makes it possible for SMEs to test devices in the sea. And this project is still going on. So on this slide, you can see the core power wave energy converter. So this is a buoy that is swimming in the water like any other buoy, of course, much bigger, as you can see, and it generates energy from the waves. It has been tested through the 4C project in one of the test sites and has been very successful. And they are currently working on improving this device, of course, and then they have in mind to install wave farms, so where you have several of these buoys generating energy as a cluster. The second device that is currently being tested under the Ocean Demo project is the motion energy wave machine. So again, a machine that generates energy from waves. And you can see it's quite big. And that's also something I want to show today, that all these devices that are being tested are quite big, therefore also quite costly also to put in the water. So that is really the main challenge that SMEs are facing, how to put these devices in the water and how to finance this, because it's really a big budget. And here you can see this one is 20 meters long and weighs 38 tons. So it's quite huge. And they put this in the water recently this year. And it's undergoing currently some testing and will be connected to the grid very soon to then really see how much energy this device can generate in the end and under which conditions. There have also been, of course, successful examples in other countries of these projects. So there were devices deployed in the Netherlands, for instance, where there was an offshore solar system that successfully survived 1.5 years of testing. And also in France at the SEMREF site, which is close to Nantes, there have been several wind and wave devices tested. And on this picture, you can see the FlowGen wind turbine. So it's a floating wind turbine that has been installed, and the testing of it has been financed by the 4C project as well. It's quite a big project and has quite some visibility also in France and beyond, because it is one of the first floating offshore wind turbines in France installed. But the most prominent and really successful example that has been tested within these projects, within the 4C projects in particularly, was the Tidal Turbine by Orbital Marine Power. It is a turbine that generates energy from tidal streams. And this picture that you can see is the prototype, and it has been tested in the 4C project for more than a year and has a capacity of 2 megawatts of generating electricity. Throughout this period of testing, this turbine has produced 3 gigawatt hours of electricity, which is, if you compare it, it was around 7% of the electricity used by the Orkney Islands, where it was tested. So Orkney is islands in the north of Scotland with about 22,000 inhabitants. So 7% on average, 7% of electricity on average was generated by this turbine, and at peaks even 25% of their electricity. That's quite a large amount by just one tidal turbine. This project was a success because it generated a lot of energy, but it also created a lot of interest and visibility. And they leveraged a huge amount of funding. More than 7 million euros of funding was leveraged by this turbine, which means that afterwards, a lot of private investors came and supported this turbine in addition with public funds. And what they did at Orbital was then to improve this turbine and build a new device, a new turbine, which is bigger in scale, has more capacities, more reliable, and of course, more optimized compared to this prototype. It is currently, it has been built in the last year, and it has just been installed in the water in summer now, about a month ago, I would say, and has been connected to the grid. So it is generating first energy, and It is generating energy to the grid. This testing of it again is financed by the Ocean Demo project. Another thing, this turbine, and you will see it now in a video, the bigger turbine is also being used to generate hydrogen onshore. And that is financed by our ITEC project, where tidal energy is used to generate hydrogen. And I will show you now this video because this will really give you an impression on the massive size of this device and the people involved who have to be on board to install this device. You can see how the anchor, the big chain, is being attached to the turbine. So that's quite impressive. So I hope you really like the video and you get a good impression on what we as a project, what we as a program were financing. So I hope you liked the video and you saw the massive device, the tidal turbine. I don't know if you have seen this in the end of the video. You see the water masses flowing by the turbine and you are thinking that the turbine is actually moving like a boat, but it's not. It's standing still, it's anchored, and what is moving is the water. So it's the tide that is moving, and this is really the power they will get from these tides, from the streams, to generate energy, and that's really quite impressive. To conclude a little bit on what we have financed and what our projects have achieved, and what is Interreg Northwest Europe proud of from these projects, I want to give a little bit of personal remarks, because I'm following these projects now since 2016, when we get our first project approved on blue energy. So that's more than 5 years. And what personally I have observed in these 5 years is really that these projects have created a lot of visibility in the energy sector and created a lot of interest as well, which hasn't been there in the beginning. In the beginning, this blue energy market was really in the infant steps, really in its baby steps, I would say, where there was some research and development and some devices put in the sea, but there was no visibility, there was no knowledge about it. Policymakers didn't know about it. Public funders and private funders didn't know about it much. And it was what is still very costly. And what I've really seen is this development of, once these projects were created, they got a lot of interest by enterprises who were really interested and demanding to put their devices in the sea and didn't have the budget for it. So it really enabled SMEs to test something new and to progress their technologies further, coming closer to the market. There's also a lot of attention now by policymakers. You can see this recently in different visits that took place at these test centers, where ministers, members of parliament visited these sites to see these devices in the sea. That's a big step because it really creates visibility, also on policy level. And also private investors are more and more interested, and as you can see with the tidal turbine that has just been shown in the video. This tidal turbine only was able to be produced because private investors put their money in it. There was a private crowdfunding campaign that allowed this project really to happen. So what I can really see from my personal view is there was this development from really research and unknown and unsure moment until really a growing market, I would say, at the moment. Another positive development created by this project was really when you look into the regions involved, in the coastal regions, it has created a lot of economic impact. So lots of jobs were created in the partner organizations of the projects, but also around. So they need a big supply chain, as you can imagine. You need vessels and boats that go to these devices on the sea to do the maintenance. There needs to be lots of equipment and so on. So the supply chain is also settling in these coastal areas, and that's quite nice to see. As well as in migration of technical experts or staff. So it has a positive economic impact for these regions, for the future in this sector, but also the people living in these regions are directly impacted by this and positively impacted by this. And I think that's another good benefit of these projects. And finally, I think the third achievement I would say is just basically the fact that these projects have shown or proven that blue energy is a reliable, renewable energy source in the future. As I said, they're still in the early footsteps and there's still a lot of work to be done, but it has shown that technically it's possible. And what we now have to overcome are some barriers, like administrative and financial barriers, also legal barriers that have to be tackled. According to Ocean Energy Europe, which is a partner in some of our projects and an important lobbying organization in Brussels, they foresee that blue energy can deliver 10% of Europe's electricity consumption by 2050. 10%, which is quite a big amount. But in order to achieve this, SMEs really need to have the possibilities to deploy and to deploy and to deploy. That's what they say. And that's what I believe as well. If we want to get these devices in the water in the future and provide reliable and affordable blue energy, then we have to fund these kind of activities. So we in Northwest Europe, we are proud of our blue energy projects and of their achievements. We think that blue energy is an important and innovative topic for our territory. And we hope that all these projects and all the partners involved will succeed in the future and really reach their vision of having blue energy as a reliable and affordable energy source. If you want more information, you can visit our website and you can also contact me for further questions that you might have. I thank you for your attention.